No, I mean, I think that we took our cue from, firstly, our own engagement with Shashi Naidoo. In Shashi Naidoo, we met a very honest, a very genuine, and a very transparent person, somebody who really wanted to make good. And that was our starting point. As for our supporters from whatever communities they may come from, we also were confident and are convinced, and it turns out to be correct, that people do have the capacity and do have that generosity of spirit to accept somebody when they have made wrong, when they have made a mistake. And it seems as if that is where the public is going with this.
What makes you believe in such a short space of time that these are not actually the views that she holds personally, and that she's only changing tune due to obviously what we've seen over the last couple of days, the serious backlash, and in fact some sponsors pulling out, some of those that had supported her in the past pulling out of supporting her? Could it have been a result of, I'm losing money here, I'm going to approach BDS to say, hey guys, listen, can you please just help me out a little bit here? And what did she say when she approached you?
I think it's a fair skepticism that some may hold. I think it's a fair skepticism, but two things. The one is the hard evidence that she showed us in terms of the copying and pasting of the message, this very hurtful, derogatory and anti-Palestinian message. It really wasn't her views. It was something that she thought that she'd come across as smart because...
Did she not read it?
I think that she read a few sentences and she skimmed over it, not knowing anything or much about the issue, and pasting it. And that was the start of the problem. That was one of the first mistakes that she made. But in addition to that, as mentioned, there was a sincerity in her voice, and there was a sincerity in her engagements with us, and we had to embark on this conversation with her with a starting point of trust. The business deals and the contracts that have been lost, it has been lost, and it is true. It's not a rumor. Durban July has disinvited her, for example. But at yesterday's press conference, Shashi Naidoo explains that, look, I may not have the business contracts anymore, and I'm not going to be getting them anytime soon, because even associating yourself with the Palestinian issue may offend certain businesses. So, but as she put it, I do have my voice, and I want to try to use my voice to make good. And we do have other celebrities across the world who are using their voice to do good. They are using their voice specifically on the Palestinian issue. We're talking about Jesse Williams of Grey's Anatomy. We're talking about Rosario Dawson of Hollywood. We're talking about Shakira most recently cancelling her gig in Israel. Natalie Portman refusing to travel to Israel. So you are seeing an increasing number of celebrities that are using this voice, and perhaps this is what we are seeing in Shashi Naidoo.
Will Shashi Naidoo, will her perceived ignorance serve as, I suppose, maybe this is what you're thinking, as perhaps an example, and maybe for her to be maybe now to turn it around, an upliftment for the the freeing of the Palestinian people, so to speak?
There is a positive story here. The fact that we're having this conversation today, the fact that millions of people across our country are following this story is an indication that people are taking a more keener interest in the Palestinian-Israeli issue, wanting to figure out why is Israel this pariah state that people are dissociating themselves from or distancing themselves from. Why did the mayor of Johannesburg suspend one of his councillors who came across as pro-Israeli? Why are artists distancing themselves from the Israeli regime? I think that this is a conversation that is increasing in our own country.
Well, that brings me then to the next topic then. On the back of this, all the Jewish Board of Deputies saying, well, what about those who want to actually support Israel? What if there are people who want to say, and I suppose the word support is the wrong word, but what if there are people who want to be vocal about their pro-Israel stance? Are you, as BDS, is the Muslim community, is the larger part of South Africa stifling those people who want to actually then be pro-Israel? We saw one of the mayors, someone in the mayor's office being suspended recently for saying that Johannesburg stood with Israel, for example. So on the back of that, some can say, well, if I'm going to be, if I say anything that is pro-Israel, my freedom of speech is then being stifled. What do you say to those kinds kinds of arguments that the Jewish Board of Deputies right now has released a statement on?
The Jewish Board of Deputies is becoming a sideshow. They're becoming an increasingly annoying nag on the side that keeps on using this accusation of anti-Semitism to try to stifle any legitimate criticism of the state of Israel. During the days of apartheid, when international activists approached artists or sports people, urging them not to come to apartheid South Africa, was it because those activists that were in solidarity with the South African struggle were anti-white? No, they were anti the policies of the apartheid government here in South Africa. And likewise, when we are appealing to artists, musicians, sports people not to travel to Israel, it's not driven out of a sentiment of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
It's driven out of a sentiment that what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people, according to Archbishop Desmond Tutu, according to the South Africa's Human Sciences Research Council, is a form of apartheid, and therefore this is not a regime that you want to be associated with. And the other thing is that the Palestinian issue the Palestinian issue is really moving beyond the Muslim community in South Africa. Last year, you have the United Congregational Church of Southern Africa, over 500,000 members, more than 4,000 churches across Southern Africa that adopted the BDS Boycott of Israel campaign. You have, for example, the Presbyterian Church, the Methodist Church, and the United Church of Christ that have all adopted the BDS Boycott of Israel. Because in the past, there was this conflation and this confusion between your biblical Israel, about Israelis that you read about in the Bible, and the modern state of Israel created in 1948. And the South African Jewish Board of Deputies and the Israeli lobby likes to conflate these two Israels, not realizing and actually doing a disservice to the indigenous Palestinian Christians, for example, that were some of the first followers of Jesus Christ. Because Bethlehem, as unfortunately many people are not aware, Bethlehem, the holy town of Bethlehem, is actually based in the occupied West Bank. It's a Palestinian town. And so there is a shift taking place, but one of the most fascinating, inspiring, and motivating shifts that we are seeing today is a shift actually within the Jewish community. There's an increasing number of Jews that are dissociating themselves from the Jewish Board of Deputies on the one hand, but also from Israel itself. At the forefront of some of the largest and most successful BDS Boycott of Israel campaigns, particularly in the United States, are young Jewish students. And these students are really, these young Jews are really providing the seeds of a future Palestine-Israel.
All right, so in the statement, in this, I think it was an Instagram statement, a social media statement that Shashi now says she copy-pasted, those who are pro-Israel will say, well, there was some truth in some of what she said. So I'm asking you to take off your BDS cap. Was there anything in that long statement that may have been true?
I think the statement was not only derogatory and hurtful, which is also inaccurate.
Okay.
I mean, the Palestinian Gaza Strip has 1.7 million people. More than 2/3 of them are refugees who literally have the keys to the houses and they have the title deeds to their homes in Israel, because they were kicked out of Israel when Israel was created in 1948. They literally can see their homes, but they're prevented entry, they're prevented access, their only crime being that they are born Palestinian, that they are not Jewish. Any Jewish person anywhere in the world can land in Tel Aviv today and can be granted automatic citizenship. But if you're a Palestinian who had your home there, you are prevented entry. And so the Palestinian Gaza Strip is completely controlled by Israel, its land borders, sea borders, as well as its naval borders. And this is really, as again Archbishop Desmond Tutu has said, the world's largest open-air prison. And so the sentiments about trying to justify this Israeli occupation of the Gaza Strip in those comments were really your typical Israeli propaganda, trying to blame Hamas, for example, one of the political organizations based there. And it's a similar tactic that the lobby that tried to support apartheid South Africa used to suggest that the African National Congress is a terrorist organization and that Nelson Mandela deserves to be in Robben Island. It's the same kind of tactics that the Israeli lobby are
Muhammed
using.
Desai, thank you so very much. A huge conversation there that obviously still needs more unpacking. Clearly, thank you so much for giving us your time. That's BDS convener Muhammed Desai speaking to us, of course, about that story that's taken over. Well, not only social media, but generally the media in general. Hey.